It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast from the Soonerscoop.com offices here on Campus Corner in Norman, Oklahoma. The entire crew is here. Bob is typing up a story, but Eddie, George, Josh, myself, we are all here as we're past 4th of July. Everybody got their fingers?
I think so.
Josh?
Yeah, even my children,
Jason,
which
Pierre,
is the
Paul,
most
yourself?
exciting news. Yeah.
No, it was, I think I had an old guy 4th of July. Just sat there and ate bad food and drank too much and watched and did binging on TV.
I watched some Rocky
Do you
IV.
guys, do you have a big like neighborhood component? Like I know Eddie and George probably don't, but like Carrie, like do you have a lot of people in your neighborhood like shooting off their own fireworks and that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That
It doesn't really bother me though. I mean, like it's just like I'm not mad. It's not frequent enough to where it's just like there's no one that went out and spent like $1,000 on fireworks. I think it was just. I think most of my neighbors have older kids, or if they have smaller kids, they take them somewhere else. Reeves Park or whatever. I didn't even know when Reeves Park did their fireworks show this year.
Downtown was popping all weekend, yeah. They did the, I think the big celebration over at Scissortail on Monday, and then I think the ballpark had something last night with the Dodgers game. So
it was loud over there.
It was loud. It sounded like Southside Chicago for most of the part, but it was good. It was a really good 4th of July, and extended into
the BLC is extended to 4th of
it
July.
made you feel like it was actually a big city. But it was really good. It was really good. It was a good weekend, and I don't know, kind of ready to get back to it. I think this is kind of the start of the beginning of the end as far as our lives go with Big 12 Media Day and then SEC Media Day and all that kind of stuff here coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I came up to the office yesterday. I was like, it's just, when it's vacations, I told everybody, hey, just take it easy, and I didn't expect anyone to, be cranking things out left and right. I mean, it's the one time of the year when we kind of take a little bit of a breath.
Sure.
So I think I tried to take it easy. But, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get the office rebuilt and get cranking.
It is wild that, you come back from the 4th of July or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's Big 12 Media Days next week, and then you roll into SEC Media Day. And then, I was telling George the other night, it's like we're going to come back from Nashville, and it's basically going to be a week out. And you're going to have local media day, then Meet the Sooners Day, and all that kind of stuff. And before you know it, it's going to be Aug 1, and you're going to be less than a month away from the start of the season.
We have 59 days till they play.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think
It's wild. It's less than 2 months.
Yeah.
What player is that again?
Xavier Bird.
Bird.
Crimson Countdown was put up this morning. So, yeah, and I think from basically here on out, it's damn near every day.
Yeah.
Well,
once you get into 59 and, moving forward.
I think it's so weird too, like when you do radio, statewide radio and stuff, you're still talking about Oklahoma State and the Big 12 and the future there. But for us, we know like this thing that we're going to go to next week in Arlington is going to be a little awkward for Oklahoma and Texas because it's going to be a celebration of BYU and Houston and UCF and Cincinnati.
Sure.
And it's going to be I think it's going to be like, just ignore the fact that OU and Texas are leaving.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to hear from some of those schools because they're going to get those questions from probably Oklahoma and Texas media about those two schools leaving. Then also you got the 4 new schools and
hoping
what are
for
their
that
take.
magical soundbite.
Yeah, and they'll probably get it from someone. I don't know who. Maybe Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy he seems to always come out with some sort of crazy soundbite out of Big 12 Media Days, but. And even, hearing from the commissioner, Yormack,
sure.
It's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say because he's going to get questions about it.
I think Mike Gundy probably best to lay low maybe this year.
Oh, which means that there will be something out there.
Exactly,
I mean, he's going to do the exact opposite of lay low.
I mean, he's not – that roster of his is rebuilt a lot.
Sure.
And, I mean, he's going to get so many questions about his quarterback situation, probably even Spencer Sanders. I mean, It's because it's like, everybody – freaked out about somebody asking him that question about would he have any coaching changes at the bowl game. It's like he really hasn't talked that much since the bowl game. I mean, they had,
which is why you had to ask it.
Yes,
that's why everybody like us that's a valid question. You have to ask it.
But he hasn't faced the questions really from non-local media of what happened with Spencer Sanders. Like, did he really want to come back and all? I mean, somebody has the guts to ask. I mean, it'll be interesting. George.
Yeah, I'll ask it. I don't care. I only have to see Mike Gundy one more time,
But you say, hey, I was in Denver the whole time.
Yeah.
Catch me up on everything that I've missed.
The other one that you could see just throwing a crazy quote out there is like Dana Holgorsen. Having him back at Big 12 Media Days will be fun. Gus Malzahn, what is he like? Who did Cincinnati hire? The guy from Louisville, what's his name?
Scott Satterfield.
The one that everybody wanted to get rid of in Louisville.
Yeah, so BYU's coach, he seems like he's not going to say anything crazy. But Holgorsen could definitely go out there and say something wild. It would not shock me.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like a Joey McGuire, I'm not necessarily saying he's going to run his mouth, but I think that they have a lot of reason to think that they're one of the programs that's going to be up and coming in this new Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, what Yormark is obviously doing in the conference. He's trying to kind of globalize the Big 12 a little bit. I saw where he was quoted today saying that they don't really have any intentions of expanding when OU and Texas leaves, but he didn't rule that out. And I wonder if somebody will ask him about the Pac-12, just about them financially and the media package, and what does that do for teams that might want to, move on.
I would imagine one of the big talking points coming out of the week is going to be the Big 12 is going to be fine without OU and Texas, and look at what they were able to do a year ago with Kansas State winning the league, TCU getting to a national championship game, which is still just wild to think about, and kind of their national standing as far as what it's going to be without the two kind of figureheads of the conference, or that the figureheads that have been the two leading blue blood programs in the country over the last however many years. You can argue what Texas has been to the conference, but obviously what Oklahoma's been.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking to Andy Staples earlier this week, and by the way, On 3, what a massive hire.
Pretty cool.
Bringing in Andy Staples, one of, if not the best national voice of college football right now. And, I think he feels like Sarkisian, there's a chance if things don't go well, like he may not even coach in the SEC.
Well, that's interesting.
In terms of if Texas can't get over that hump that they've been trying to get over for the last decade.
Just with everything that's going on, yeah. I mean,
on paper, they're going to be the team.
If yours doesn't work out and they have quarterback issues and it looks like they're not heading in a positive direction going into the SEC, you could see those donors kind of losing their minds a little bit and saying we need to do something drastic before we get there.
Well, I think
because the talent, I mean, he's bringing in talent.
Yeah, but that's kind of been the number hasn't that been the bit for Texas for however, X amount of years that they've had plenty of talent. It's just the number of the wins that haven't come. And, OU and Texas are very much in kind of the same position as far as needing to build momentum going into 2024 this year. And
Britt has a terrible year. He's not safe. I mean,
sure. Now, I think that leash is probably a little bit longer in Norman than it is in Austin.
With the administration, it certainly is. But with what I'm talking about is the fan base is they're going to give up on him if he doesn't win 9 games this year.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas would have to go like 8-4, which is very possible that they could go 8-4, especially when you have Alabama on the schedule. Oklahoma, as long as they have a quarterback, that should be a closer game. So I don't know. And they were close last year. You look at their schedule last year. People forget they almost lost to like Iowa State. I think was that at home? Yeah, at Iowa State at home.
West Virginia was a close, or maybe they blew them out. I can't remember what happened.
Hold on. No, they beat them 38-20, but Iowa State, I remember 24-21 at home. They barely won that game, but at Kansas State, they won.
The Oklahoma State game was really
they lost.
Yeah, they lost that one. Right?
Quinn Ewers is really
that's awful.
He was terrible.
He was
that
terrible.
Well, and that Iowa State game, that's the one where Xavier Hutchinson had to drop. Like that should. I mean, that's not even like they could have lost. They should have lost that game.
And then they lost to Washington in the bowl game at the end of the year. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, like you said, Eddie, that on paper they should win the conference. I mean, I think I saw Brett McMurphy put it out. They're projected to be favored in every single game except for the Alabama game, I think.
Sure.
This year. So, they should win 10, 11 games. But if they don't, Texas, they could pull the plug on Sark.
Well, the thing about Texas is they've got a good offensive line, finally. Like, that young line just got better and better last year. Like, Ewers is going to get protected. They don't need Bijan Robinson to have a good running game. I mean, he's a special back, but I mean, he didn't help them win some of those games they should have won, and they didn't go to him as much. I know the Texas fans would say, as they should have.
They've got to go to TCU, and that's been a real problem for Texas through the years. TCU just seems like that's kind of they're almost like. Well, I mean, I would say Kansas State to Oklahoma, but Kansas State's been a problem for Texas even longer than Oklahoma. So, there's kind of like OU. There's no way it should be below 9-3. Texas, there's no way they should be anything less than 10-2. Like I don't see any argument for that.
By the way, this segment brought to you by Enjoy Vision, the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective look around as we're looking at all things Big 12. And here's one thing that I think could happen before Big 12 Media Days gets here. Pac-12 still doesn't have a media rights deal, not a meteorite. Maybe somebody like a Colorado gets jumpy. Maybe feelers are sent out. Maybe that gets out there a little bit, or maybe it's I think we all know Arizona State seem like two teams that are very poachable right now. Like, what happens if you think about when OU Texas happened, it happened right in the middle of SEC Media Days. Possibly another leak could be coming.
Have you followed the San Diego State stuff at all?
I mean, not.
Just that they were tried to jump out of the Mountain West.
Oh, and then they
said
that'd be $13 million or whatever.
Something crazy. So, I mean, I don't know. There could be some movement. I don't expect it, but the San Diego State stuff was kind of interesting. Because I think the Pac-12 is looking to add.
But the thing is, people forget OU and Texas leaving came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nothing would be surprising that a Pac-12 team did trying to jump.
Well, and the craziest part is we had just wrapped up Big 12 Media Days where everything was so honky and dory and everybody was, it's like everything's coming together and, the league is going to be stronger than ever. And then all of a sudden you look up the week after, we had basically broke from Arlington. And the news is out there that OU and Texas are getting ready to leave. I mean, it was absolutely insane how all that went.
How was there never a show like on Nickelodeon called Honky and Dory?
There was the Honky Tonk. What was the camp called? Camp Onawana or whatever. Didn't they have some type of honky BS with it?
Only thing I really remember, my nieces were growing up at that time, so we were watching a lot of Hannah Montana.
That was
Disney
even
Channel.
before.
But Disney. But the only thing I knew about Nickelodeon, that's where Ariana Grande came from, right?
Yeah, she was on.
Was that iCarly?
No,
initially?
Victorious, and I had the biggest crush on her. Still do. Her and Victoria Justice. That was my age growing up.
What was the something in Cat?
Yeah, Victorious. Her name was Kat.
Okay.
On Victorious.
Little out of my element, but.
Wow, that's Carrie. I'm kind of impressed there. That's nicely done, man.
You know how the little girls are. They just watch that Disney and Nickelodeon. It's always
girls.
on.
I was a boy.
Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about my nieces. I was babysitting a lot.
Oh, okay.
Eddie broke out camp, and I was thinking of a show called Bunked that was that Lainey has been rocking for a long time now, and I can literally sing that theme song to the whole thing, and I'm not gonna put our listeners through that kind of pain, but that was that whole thing ran through my head as you guys were having that conversation.
I remembered a lot of the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody too.
Great show. Ashley Tisdale was great on there.
Was that where she got her start?
Yeah. There and High School Musical.
Oh yeah.
That's all my prime childhood. All that stuff. Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. I watched that every day with my brother.
This is why you're here. I'm not kidding. We need the infusion of youth. So, yeah, I think going up there next week, like George and I were just talking, is there any reason to go on Wednesday, not just Thursday? The SEC, we do have our credentials for that. We are going to go to Nashville. That will be really interesting.
Yep.
Will Josh Heupel speak to me? I don't know.
He doesn't know me, so if he doesn't, I'll just follow up with the exact same question.
Yeah, just come in. dressed as Batman.
Just turn your credential around so it doesn't say Sooner Scoop, and then I'll just pretend like I was never there. Or you can, I'll give you what I saw this meme the other day about the Weeknd pronouncing carte blanche. I'll give you carte blanche to say, man, that Murdoch guy's a jerk, isn't he?
Yeah,
Like
I'll just throw you under the bus.
Exactly. For anything for the story, George. No, but Shane Beamer will be there. Mark Stoops will be there. Saban will be there.
Pittman.
Why did I guess because the Alabama-Texas game was already going to be over since they joined, they didn't disavow that game of happening like they did with the Georgia. Because OU would have played Georgia this year.
Yep. And it might have been because there was already
a return game.
Yeah, the return game. I'm really not sure.
I'm sure OU was like, yeah, that's okay. We'll cancel that game this year with Georgia.
You guys want to cancel this? Okay, yeah, we can find a different date. That's fine.
SMU works.
It should be pretty good with Preston Stone. I saw there was a lot of buzz about him earlier, I guess over the weekend. I saw something on the internet about it.
Did Vandegrift transfer?
Brock?
Yeah.
No, he's still out there at Georgia,
there?
yeah. I think he's fighting for the starting job out there.
And sounds like he has no shot at it. That sounds
what
like
I was
Carson Beck's
wondering,
job all day.
It's wild.
It sounded like he wasn't in the mix, but it was one of those things like you got to say it's still a competition.
Yeah.
So he doesn't portal.
It's insane.
By the way, we'll get to the portal news. There was a jump in and a jump out when my old man yelling at the clouds rant last week about how can there be a portal when there's no portal with Aaryn Parks. But first off, if we drive to Dallas and I have to drive with someone, I want it to be Eddie because I know he's going to be able to see exactly what's in front of him.
I'll see everything. I'll even see DWs on the side of the road that I guess has been renamed as we make our way down to Arlington next week. But it's all because of Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City. Not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for somebody like myself. Went through it, in and out. It was actually kind of incredible to go in one day, 3-4 hours later, you come out, you wake up. The patient care was unbelievable. They did an exceptional job. And, something that I think is that is pretty scary for a lot of people. It was rather easy for me. So what they're doing for the unofficial 40 listeners, giving up $400 off of LASIK. All you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com, use the promo code U40, and you can save and start seeing as good as me, or about half as good as me. I don't know if anybody will ever have better vision than me. Just go to the letter NJOY with me.com, promo code U40. Enjoy vision. This is where you LASIK.
The other thing about LASIK, like I got it, I think when I was about 35, maybe. And like you want to get it when you're younger. Like I can't tell you how awesome it was to be able to like sit up in the press box and be able to distinguish numbers all of a sudden after squinting for so long or looking through binoculars. Like, don't wait. Go out and get it while you're young.
Yeah.
When you can really enjoy life.
It's awesome.
Okay, so lots of stuff to come from Big 12 Media Days coming up next week. We don't know if anyone... That's the bad part is, like, if you had an incompetent commissioner, it can always be fun because people will, ask the accusatory questions. I don't know. You can really ask an accusatory question of Brett Yormark.
I mean, I think that everybody's pretty pleased with everything.
Yeah.
OU Texas is pleased because they're leaving and they're headed to the SEC.
Yeah.
Big 12's current and
compared to the shit show of the Pac-12, you know that the Big 12 has done a good job.
They've done more than a good job of just stabilizing.
They didn't turn themselves into the SEC or the Big 10, but they raised themselves above everybody else.
Sure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I don't know how the schools that are still in place and the schools that are coming in couldn't be happy about the product that Brett Yormark's been able to hold together and make better. I mean, it's an improved league, and there's a certain part of me that is definitely not jealous because I think I'm way more excited about OU and the SEC, but I think that there is like a portion of me that's a little sad to see everything go and not be a part of a conference that I've basically grown up in. I mean, Big 8, Big 12, there's nobody more ride or die than me for that conference. Certainly over the last couple of years, and even when OU was in the college football playoff and stuff, the arrogance that comes with the SEC that we'll soon inherit in a way. It's like, I'm kind of sad to be, I guess, turning the back on a conference that's been so good to Oklahoma over the last couple of years.
Here's a question for everybody, and that is, what part of the OU program is most SEC ready right now? We haven't talked about the Thad Turnipseed situation, which we need to, but is it the administration, the coaching staff, the fans?
I mean, is it
the Crimson Corner message board?
The message board.
Can it be like all encompassing and just saying like, this has been something that I've said before on multiple outlets, on podcast and things like that, just in terms of getting ready for the SEC. I think that there's a certain level of passion for the sport of college football and college athletics from OU and Texas side, particularly, that match up with the fervor that is out there for, whatever sport you want to talk about, whether it's OU softball or OU football or, whatever. There is a certain level of passion that I think that you have to have within the fan base. Now, can some of that be misguided sometimes? Sure. But I think that there is a certain level of intrigue and I guess just day in and day out how it survives or revolves around people's lives that matches up with the likes of Alabama, wherever, deep South college football.
I do think, Josh, we're probably going to have to deal with, some of the fallout from fans and the fan base becoming SEC ready. For instance, we know if times get tough around here, sometimes people start blaming us for things that go wrong. Like, well, if you had been asked a harder question in the post-game press conference, maybe this team wouldn't have overlooked that team. Or what? Like, if you told this staff that they weren't playing well when before this game started, maybe they would have prepared better. Like, we get it. Like, it's just part of the job. But I would imagine there's going to be even more delusional hate towards the media if this fan base really is SEC. And I'm saying we should be here for it and ready for it.
I'm currently working on a boot camp for 2 weeks that we're going to do in late July every year, getting ourselves ready for this. A lot of throwing shoes at reporters that ask bad questions. Like we're gonna be really make sure we're ready to go for this. But yeah, I mean, guys, I think there are elements of the board that are ready. There is a guy that has threatened to drag his let's say his equipment across some hot coals if Oklahoma can land some big commitments this summer, and has doubled down that he will back this up. So that guy's SEC ready. I believe it's Thompson Sooner on the board, so I want to give him a little shout out. But we have to rise to that occasion as well. There's no question.
Yeah, nobody's going to be able to post that anywhere for proof.
Yeah, I don't know how we verify it and not just horrify everyone. But
I already watched the hot dog eating contest this weekend. I don't
put it on OnlyFans.
I respect any guy that, like I said, even because we're all guys, like we get it. Like just the thought of that is horrifying, and to say it once is like, oh, whatever. But I called him out. I was like, you won't do it, basically, and he was like, no, I'm ready. And I'm like, I respect that because it's mental anguish even saying those words. You're putting yourself through it.
By the way, this is one thing that I'm glad that OU is leaving early, because I really feel like if OU would have had to play a game in Mexico, we would have found out a lot of things about Eddie that we didn't need. Like,
I think you guys already know everything.
Like that you're actually the head of a cartel.
I wish. That would be amazing. I wouldn't be getting up at 5 a.m. every day. I can tell you that.
It would explain the El Paso queasiness. Like Eddie is always afraid that he's on the wrong side of
I just didn't want to run into some of my brethren.
He did not like the being so
it's not
close
like
to
I
the
didn't
border.
like it. I was kind of amazed by it. I had never rode the border and saw everything that's on the other side.
I felt
you let your coyotes do that work? Yeah, I got you.
Well, and it was weird because you'd be driving along and all of a sudden 2 4-wheelers would pull up out of the grass and stuff.
It was awesome.
Until they were like scouring.
That was the ICE agents.
It was. Yeah, no, it was. That was the most freaked out I've ever seen.
I wasn't freaked out either.
You were freaked out.
I wasn't freaked out.
You were very happy to get to El Paso and get to Fuddruckers.
I think it had more to do with just being on the road with you for 20 days or whatever it was. I was just ready.
What are you talking about? You slept the whole time.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He made up for it on the Knoxville trip, but, there were several. I would say 5 or 6 times, maybe not that many. I definitely drove all through the night from Phoenix to San Antonio.
Yeah, that was a long trip.
I will say there was some gas station in the middle of nowhere that had the best Subway that I'd ever had in my entire life on that trip. Because literally, you're when you take that trip, you're out in the middle of nowhere. It's complete darkness. Like if you see a gas station, you're like, "Thank God, civilization."
That's where the love of Fuddruckers came about.
Yeah,
when we stopped in El Paso,
which I think is now a defunct company.
Oh, Fuddruckers is?
Yeah, I think they went out of business.
Know that. That's too bad. It was a hell of a trip.
Pour one out. So anyway, no, I mean, I think that is pretty cool playing in Mexico. I don't know if I'd want to go there though.
Yeah, I'm pretty good on the out of country.
George,
you went to London last year.
I went to London, but I heard from people that have gone to the NFL Mexico trip that it's quite terrible.
Really?
It's like you do not leave your hotel and you are like security everywhere. Yeah. Like it's not.
I've had some buddies that go down to Mexico City quite a bit that have a good time. Now they got the means to go down there and have security that detail them and all that kind of stuff, but they usually have a pretty good time. I think they went down there for a bachelor party and had quite a time.
I'd love to know what the crowd would be like at that, because it's one thing when
they had that one NBA game that one time where they couldn't play it because the arena caught on fire.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think the Spurs and somebody.
They're going to play a basketball game down there too. I think Kansas is playing somebody, if I remember correctly, next year.
Yeah,
I think it's a good game too. I want to say it's like Kansas and Houston, maybe.
I know the
Tiffany
NFL.
and I have.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was going to say we've done the Mexico trip several times for like anniversaries and that kind of stuff. And while you're in country, and we're like Cabo, like we're way, like I get it. But at the same time, it's jarring every time to and from the airport to see the police with like a gun turret, like they're in a car with a giant machine gun mounted, just like you see in Sicario. Like you're like, holy crap. Like, I was just out drinking, pina coladas on the beach, and now 20 minutes later, I'm staring down like a 50 cal. Like, it's crazy and jarring every time. I can't even imagine what it looks like in Mexico City, where it's just so much more. There's so much more of a crime element and so more prevalent in those ways.
In some people's world, that's what they want elementary schools to look like out in front. Security. It's called security, guys.
So when you went to London, was that like just a bunch of hooligans that were like like the soccer crowds, like the very aggressive fans?
Sorta.
Or was it
was
mostly
like
tourists?
It was no. I mean, it was definitely not tourists. I mean, it was definitely local people were at the game, but like they're just NFL fans. So like you see all 32 jerseys at the game.
Oh, okay.
And they just are there for drinking and having a good time. I mean, nobody there actually.
A lot of people learning the sport, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of how the London crowd was.
But I mean,
for
what is
baseball
it?
this
It's
year.
over a decade now where they've been having games there, right?
Yeah, and you would think that since the Jaguars play there all the time, there'd be a huge fan base there, and there's definitely
or that they hate football.
Yeah, but the people really don't care about the Jaguars. But like what I was going to say about Mexico is the NFL tailors it to teams that have a big following in Mexico, which is why like the Raiders have played there. The Broncos apparently have a huge following in Mexico. The Cardinals played there this last year. So they tailor it to teams that are closer to Mexico, and so then they sell out the stadium.
I think the Cowboys would have the biggest following.
I think the Cowboys have maybe played there. I don't know. I'm not sure, but that's kind of why the NFL has certain teams play there, is because they have a bigger following. That's why I'm like.
And they do have. I didn't know this until all that was announced, but they do have college football in Mexico. There are universities that play college football.
I didn't know that. That's why it'd be interesting to me.
They
like,
actually have a national championship.
If you send like Houston and Oklahoma State to Mexico, do they sell that out? I have no idea.
I think that they would. I mean, I don't know what a capacity crowd would be for something like that. I think that they would have some, like some old school. What was it called? What was the Baylor Stadium? Casey
Tarps.
Floyd or whatever. Yeah, tarp situation that would cover some of the upper decks and stuff like that. But I bet it would be pretty well attended.
By the way, I had no idea that Baylor was building a new basketball arena.
Yeah. Right on the water. It's supposed to be really nice.
So it's right there by Lane Stadium.
Yeah, it would be just
McLean? Is it
south of
McLean Stadium?
McLean. Yeah, it'd be just south of there. And it's going to be a lot like the Moody Center in terms of smaller venue.
Yeah, it
that
didn't
they're
look
gonna
like it
wanna,
was huge.
Yeah, it's like 8,000 or 9,000 that they're going to want to sell out every game and have a really good atmosphere, which I'm sure that they will.
Sounds like something that we could use maybe down the
like
street
something
here.
Porter Moser would love
Interesting.
to talk
Yeah.
about.
I'm sure.
So anyway, we talked about the portal, non-portal, and Aaryn Parks entered the portal, even though there wasn't a portal to enter. And it turns out there wasn't because he's back. What the hell happened with Aaryn Parks?
I gotta assume, Josh, it was just a simple case of a kid not realizing he's not eligible in 2023 if he transfers at this moment, and so he's going to stick around and see what this year brings. And it sounds like OU's bringing him back. Like there's not any hard feelings there, but it sounds like you have these set guidelines. This is your window. You didn't meet it. There's no hardship. There's no like you're not gonna get some hardship waiver. There's nothing really going on here that's made it difficult, except for maybe some days with Schmitty. And it just sounds like, all right, I'm going to have to grit this out for at least one more season.
Yeah, I think it absolutely was a situation where with Aaryn just didn't know what it looked like. And, for those at home that feel the same, basically at this point in time, Aaryn Parks could only transfer if he was a graduate. That was the only way that was going to work. And I know at least one staff hit me up and was like, hey, is this guy a grad? And I was like, nope, he's not. So it was kind of baffling. And I talked to a couple of sources through right after he announced he was leaving. And it was very much oh, no, I think he knows where he wants to go. So I think he kind of had a plan in place, but he just kind of missed the first step of it can't happen right now. So it makes you wonder if this is just basically a rental. Like we're going to see the same thing happen come December. And, hey, and I like Bob said, I don't think there's any hard feelings. I think everybody gets it. I think part of me thinks this tells you a lot about where Oklahoma and people in that program see Jacob Sexton, that he's going to be that guy at left tackle going forward.
Is there a situation that he could come back and they would say, okay, we'll try to redshirt you. We'll try to do as much as possible to redshirt you.
He's already
redshirted.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know without looking that up.
Yeah. No.
Stupid question.
Well, what would be interesting is if they just don't play him ever at all. Like, here's your punishment. You're just going to sit there and do nothing entire season.
If the Cheez-It Bowl does tell you anything, it's that he can come in and at least play a little bit in case of a major bind.
So if it's a self-belief thing, that's where I'm a little confused because, with Sexton out, he played the most he's ever played. And so, you got to figure he thinks he can play at a high level. And that also makes me wonder how OU could be so confident about Sexton when they don't know what he's going to look like when he gets back to being 100%.
But, and George Eddy, I want to say we saw him. We saw Jake moving around a little bit. I didn't see any big brace. He looked like he was making pretty good progress from, what you can tell from just watching a guy move around a little bit.
Oh, I mean, from what I told you guys, I think I mentioned it at camp when we saw him out there working out or, walking to work out with the offensive linemen guys. It's like for a guy that had a ACL injury to end his season, it seems like he's bouncing back faster than
you're talking about late
we've
December.
seen anybody. You would imagine that he would still even, this would have been during the spring. He was moving around quite well for somebody that was just coming off of a.
Well, that's what we had to clarify.
Right.
We're we think it's an ACL, but man, that dude looks like he's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually, you're at 8 or 9 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And maybe it wasn't to a
good.
severity that,
right.
That does force you to be out for X many months. I really don't know.
Yeah, it does. It makes you wonder if maybe it was the MCL, it wasn't the full take. I don't know. And again, we're wildly speculating here based on very trivial information, but it does. It looks positive, and it looks like there is hope that he can have a role. Maybe by midpoint this year or something.
Well, obviously he's worked really hard, and he's been able to get rehabbed and stronger. And one way to increase some time in your day is to go to primeshrimp.com so you can be better in all things that you do. You can get a restaurant-quality meal in less than 10 minutes. Just get that water boiling, drop that bag right in there, and all kinds of flavors to choose from. You got the signature Cajun seasoned shrimp. You got the French Quarter Alfredo, the lemon and cracked pepper, the garlic herb and butter, and also the New Orleans-style barbecue shrimp, plus many, many more. And here's the thing. If you use the promo code U40 when you check out, you can get 25% off an order of $50 or more. That's primeshrimp.com, Prime shrimp.com. One of the great sponsors of our pod. Go check them out. Straight from Louisiana, none of the shrimp hassle. Pouches go from your freezer to pot to plate in a restaurant-quality meal in 10 minutes. So primeshrimp.com, go check them out. Support the pod. Support the great people who sponsor us, like Prime Shrimp. Promo code U40, 25% off your order of $50 or more. Okay, obviously, any more portal talk you want to hit on? I mean, I can't think of anything out there brewing unless you want to hit softball portal.
We could. I mean,
which is grad transfer portal.
Not for
No.
the
She
Wisconsin.
not-
She was a
Wisconsin
freshman
girl, not
last
she was a
year.
true freshman.
Okay, so their
So-
portal is open right now for softball.
Yeah, because
30 days after.
I think it's officially over.
Yeah, it is.
But
They can still
her
find
name
homes.
was in
her
there.
name was in
Okay.
June 19th.
I gotcha.
So
that
she-
makes a lot of sense.
And Patty kind of, needed a break after what that season was like, and they weren't very aggressive in the first couple weeks following the end of the Women's College World Series. But now they are. Now they've been hosting top-tier elite transfer targets during the last week. They had Taryn Kern from the Hoosiers was in this last one of the best freshmen in the entire country. Not sure if she'll play infield or if she'd be a utility type of player or designated player type deal there. But so maybe that was the second go boomer. I'm not saying it is. I'm just kind of connecting the dots here now that Peyton Monticelli from Wisconsin is officially in. You knew they needed a pitcher, and they got someone who's got a lot of years, just had a true freshman season. So maybe that pushed it over the edge against some of the other prospects that are out there. There would be like a 1-year rental. Here's Peyton. Went 7-4, 2.7 ERA and 80 innings. Maybe that's something they feel they can really build off of. But I know the last half of June, some fans were getting antsy or wondering, like, when are they going to start making their moves? Well, here it comes. They took a little break, but now it's time to replenish and get ready for what this next season is going to look like.
Member of the Great Britain senior team too,
And-
which I don't know how much that counts for, but
that's why there's no way she's committing on the 4th of July when you're a member of the Great Britain national team. But I would be ready from Wednesday on, and sure enough, Wednesday morning happened. She made her announcement. But yeah, you definitely got to think that OU isn't done. And I think the curious thing would be to wonder, are they still going to look for another pitcher, or will they feel confident with what they've got here, which would lead to obviously a much bigger role for Kirsten Deal and whether or not they believe she could handle that as a sophomore.
Yeah, and I got to think that she and Nicole May kind of start the season 1A, 1B, see who becomes a more dominant pitcher.
It'd be hard to beat out May after what she's done. So, but
May's been excellent.
I still think Deal
Kirsten
kind of.
Deal was great
I
when
think
she had
Deal
opportunity.
Has maybe she has. The only thing I don't like about Nicole May is like she doesn't really have that out pitch. I mean, she throws the drop ball, but like she doesn't really have that rise ball that just that Jordy Ball had for certain. But even other pitchers you see, I think Deal might have, because we haven't seen enough of her yet. Might have some of that potential. All right, let's move into talking about what we kind of hinted on earlier. Thad Turnipseed leaving the University of Oklahoma. I know Josh had first got tipped by someone like, "Hey, have you heard anything about this?" George was in Jamaica, so I went put my reporter cap back on and reached out to someone I thought would know, and they said yes, he has resigned. And then I continued to go up the chain to try and find out if I could get confirmation on it. And throughout the whole thing, and even after it was over, the thing that's been interesting is so many people reaching out to me or calling and kind of adding some context to all the things that had happened. But essentially, I workplace kind of drama happens all the time. And I don't know if I'm willing to blame it just on, Thad was not the nicest person to some people. That's probably true.
I think it's always important too to just point out that, and this was something that came up from day one when everybody came into the new offices or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is a football office from secretary on down that had been doing the same way, everything the same way for the last literally 22 years or 23 years since
this
1999.
Just coming in and say nope,
and
nope.
There was so much turnover, and how much that affects what happened on field. Probably very little at the end of the day, but I mean, there was drastic turnaround and change from what they had been doing, the day in and day out stuff throughout the offices, basically the day that Brent took over.
Well, and here's the thing. I think what Thad Turnipseed did at Alabama, the type of program they were then, is very different probably from the program they are now. Same thing with Clemson. They built it up. He was, 2014 when they beat Oklahoma in the Walmart Sweatpants Bowl, that was the start of Clemson, ascending. And, they became a power, and I'm sure they run things differently now than versus when Thad first got there. The difference isn't coming to Oklahoma. You've had a competent AD for a very long time. You've had people like Larry Nafee that have been involved in stadium projects for 20 plus years. Longer than that for Larry. But what Thad did, I think he brought some new ideas and the new the athletics operations facility. Putting the dining hall in there with them and the experiences they had at Clemson doing that. I think he brought some really good ideas. But I think when you have a guy that you're paying $350,000 a year that's not a fundraiser, not allowed to be a fundraiser, those are things that he was expecting to do. And I just don't think with the setup OU has we're in Oklahoma. To raise the money that you need to build the stuff that they need to build, it's not, you can't compare it to Texas or Texas A&M. They've got this thing down to a science. How they and George and I were talking about this the other day. It shows you how big a deal it is when the regents come through and they okay a $175 million football operations facility, because that means OU will now put the fundraising wheel into motion, and that thing is a well-oiled machine. It doesn't need Thad Turnipseed. It's Loves Field, the baseball project, all the things that Tim Headington has done. They have this, man. And I think Thad Turnipseed was probably frustrated that he wasn't allowed to be a bigger part of that. But he was never going to be a bigger part of that.
The common question that would be out there then is, why did everybody make a big deal about him coming over when he was?
Brent made a big deal out of everything when he first got here. He was trying to sell the program. Realize it. This was a program.
And I think it also helps that he was at Alabama and Clemson, where they've obviously had a ton of success.
And so fans attached that success onto Thad Turnipseed, which I don't know how much was really his success. It's certainly not as much as Nick Saban or what the coaching staff, Dabo Swinney put together, did. But Brent was selling everything. He was overselling there. He was trying to get a bunch of people into the stadium. It was a fan base that was fractured because of what Lincoln Riley did to it. Even the donors, they were emboldened to turn, do something to stick it back in Lincoln Riley's face, and they're still trying to do that.
I want to ask this too, and I wrote a little bit about this in the mailbag, but I think that there's a lot of people that say, well, Josie and Thad didn't get along that well. But my argument to that would be, if Brent had said, hey, we have to have this guy on staff and was adamant about it, don't you think he would still be on staff? I'm not saying that Brent and Thad, had some sort of conflict, but I think he'd still be on staff if Brent was like, we have to have this guy in the program. Don't you?
Yeah, I brought this point up a bunch of times. Like, guys, can we name a time when we know Joe Castiglione went in and fired a football staff member without, like, just he was like, I'm doing this, and I don't care what anybody else says. I can't think of that example. Like, maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but if it is, it's a very short list. Like, I just struggle to believe this. People trying to make this into some big athletic department versus Thad Turnipseed power struggle. Like, stop. That's just not reality.
You probably missed my Cale Gundy there.
Cale Gundy.
No, it doesn't usually happen. But
if nothing else, though, it just does. It's not a good look from the outside looking in. If you're just the average Oklahoma fan,
when you just went 6-7,
and you're
building this
firing
new football facility, and you feel like Thad was responsible for helping to get that done.
It was supposed to be the quote unquote CFO of what that vision was going to be. I mean, you spent an hour with him, Bob.
I did, and I was told I can't take pictures of anything that's in here. It's all top secret, and like I was all about alignment, going from good to great, great to elite, and the steps that they were going to have to take to try to get there. And he was in the Father's Day video. They had that Father's Day video a couple of weeks ago. You had all of Thad's children. It's not like this had been in the works, for weeks and months, and it finally happened. I mean, there had to be a straw somewhere that came around and broke camel's back, but it just felt like very odd timing.
Well, and it's possible to. I mean, it's very possible that Thad just said, "Look, I can't do what I
because he's in a different place.
His
kids are in a different place too.
He's got 6 months left on his deal.
Yeah, when he was going through the Clemson and Bama stuff, either they weren't born or they were really young. I mean, if you look at his social media, a lot of it was retweeting what his kids are doing as high school age athletes. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's all part of it, but
sure.
It's like I want to watch him grow up too.
At the end of the day, if you don't want to sign up for what is going to come with the building of the new facility and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to sit here and just shit on a guy for wanting to spend time with his kid that's going to be a senior in high school. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think the main thing is like it obviously didn't work out the way either side wanted it to.
But it won't affect the 2023 team.
No, they're still going to build the freaking building. They're still going to raise the money for it. Like nothing will change, and it doesn't mean that they're not SEC ready. It doesn't mean that Joe C. got jealous and slapped him down and said, "This is my I'm the guru, not you." Like none of that happened. I don't even know how much interaction Joe C. and Thad really had together. I don't think that they were meeting like on a weekly or monthly basis saying this is what we need in the football program moving forward. Like some of those discussions happened certainly, but I don't think it was a constant stream of communication there.
Yeah, I don't, Kerry. I think I heard some similar stuff, and I know you heard it first, but there was absolutely some like. These guys weren't like a scheduled weekly meeting or something. Yeah. Like this idea that it was just constantly they were, around each other. But the thing I come back to, and I know you guys touched on it already a little bit earlier, but it's just expectations. Because if you had told every OU fan when Thad Turnipseed was hired, guys, they are going to clear a near $200 million facility. He's going to set it up. He's going to get it built, and then he's going to go. I think everybody would be fine with where it is right now. Like they've done everything they set up. It was just that the expectations got built to a degree. And I want to say, like, I think, we can say, oh, the fans expected too much. We shoveled out some of the shit Brent was putting out there. Like Bob did a huge story with that. That's not on Bob. I'm not saying like it's just the fans or anything like that. Like there was, and I think it was.
But you know what? We told people that Buki was having such a great spring too. So
I mean, have we talked about that? I believe Kerry discovered where Buki is now.
Yeah. That was. I think that's USC. Been a thing though. He was out there during the spring.
It was just shocking to see his photo. Like
no, he's been out there because he was like hosting people on visits and stuff.
I mean, he's probably very good at that.
Yeah, 100%.
Also,
I want to say that he was with them during spring. Okay. Like during spring ball, he was out there.
I know you mentioned earlier he was making $350,000, Kerry. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me how much Clark Stroud was making? Who was in his? I mean, it was kind of different roles, but pretty much
125.
$155,000.
Okay.
And everybody has their own opinion of Clark Stroud, I'm sure, out there. But he was getting paid quite a bit more.
Right.
At least Turnipseed was.
Sure.
Getting paid quite
Well,
a
I'm
bit
sure that they had to present something that was worthwhile for him to leave Clemson initially.
Well, I will
Yeah.
say this: if you're going to give Thad Turnipseed credit, Joe C is not the kind of guy that just says, "Oh yeah, we built this ginormous south end zone facility, and we're just going to abandon it for a football ops center." Like, someone had to convince Joe C that they needed to do that, and I would think that Thad Turnipseed deserves a tremendous amount of credit for that. And remember, Josh, it was $60 million that they spent on their facility at Clemson. This is triple that.
Oh yeah, it's massive. And I was interested to see, because you guys were mentioning the money to get Thad to leave Clemson. He was making $230 at Clemson, so I mean they had to make a sizable investment. And I'm sure he was doing probably something similar to some of the guys you guys are referencing with Clark, and then going back to Matt. Is it McMillan? It was McMillan, right? Yeah.
Matty Mac, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just, I think they probably overpaid, and I think that created probably some false sense of what he was doing and what he brought to the table. But again, the ultimate thing he came in to do, he got done. So, okay. It's just some of the talk that this means that OU's not serious about football. I'm like, do you realize the job he got done is to build one of the most expensive facilities in the country? That doesn't happen if you're not serious about football. That's not, those two things cannot coexist.
All right. I think we should hit on some recruiting here about 50 minutes into the show. By the way, deadsoxy.com. Go check them out, deadsoxy.com. It has been miserable in Oklahoma, but the no-shows certainly help you make it through the days. They are an essential, and I've been washing those things as fast as I wear them because they are a must when it gets to 90, 100 degrees. Go check them out, deadsoxy.com. They got tons of different varieties to choose from. Really, in the end, it doesn't matter. It's just you have a great sock on underneath those sneakers, and because nobody sees them, but they're so comfortable. They've got the little bead and the jelly bead or whatever that is in the back of it, the silicone beads to keep it up on your feet so it doesn't slip down into your shoe. And it also goes to the boardroom and their college colorways as well. So go check them out. If you don't have the Maker Bayfield sock, I don't know what you're doing because those are still in stock. But use the promo code SCOOP. You get 25% off your entire order. That's promo code SCOOP for 25% off your order, no minimum, from deadsoxy.com. But appreciate them. Appreciate their socks even more because those things are just fantastic. Deadsoxy.com, deadsoxy.com. And as always, stay soxy. Okay, recruiting trail. Obviously, we hit a nerve last week with the offensive line truth bomb that we threw out there, I guess you would call it. Now,
I don't know if it was a truth bomb as much as it was just a check in reality of where things are. Is that a truth bomb? I don't know. I'm trying to make people feel a little bit better about themselves.
Well, I'm more doom and gloom again this week, Josh, because I'm just miffed at the lack of the commitment dates being announced for guys that we all feel confident for OU. Like you wrote in the hot board, any hour, any day, but it's like, when are some of these guys finally gonna, make that final push? He's out.
And we've lost Josh.
He's out. I'm not talking about this.
Damn it, I muted myself. I wanted to say, I want people that sent me hate mail last week to understand, Bob has taken me down this negative path. Yell at Prisbillo every once in a while. You'll feel better about it. No, it is, Bob. I'm big on be patient, let it happen, those sort of things. But we're now over 2 weeks out from the barbecue, over 3 weeks out from that first huge visit weekend on July 9th. At some point, things need to start happening. And I think everybody can look to Saturday. It looks good for Devon Mitchell, but I know people say, well, at least for right now, he's in the 2025 class.
Correct.
I can't get excited about that. at some again, like people want me to say something new, and I hate that I don't have anything new because there's no new pitches. I mean, like the only contact that can happen is like DMs, and if the kids call the coaches, like this is a quiet. I mean, like I was gonna say quiet, but that's not right. I mean, this is dead, and so there's very little that can be done, and we all just kind of have to sit and watch it play out. And in those time frames, you're not going to have like these big swings. Like basically everybody's just kind of sitting here, and then the word's going to start to leak out when a guy makes a decision, whether it's Williams-Nwaneri, whether it's David Stone, whether it's Taylor Tatum, Michael Boganowski. I mean, you go down the list, there's a whole bunch of guys in play, and I think Oklahoma's going to get a good share of the guys I put on that Hot 11 yesterday. You know, it's on the front page of the site. If anybody wants to go see it, it's still there. Just kind of ranked the 11 guys I think are most likely to pull the trigger in the near future, and kind of weigh that against where I think Oklahoma is for these guys. But again, with Taylor Tatum, like we talked about this same thing last week, there's nothing new. There's nothing he's going to see. There's no new pitch. It's just him sitting down and coming to a final decision. And, you know, like I think there are three elements in play. The family, which is always in play. That's just always going to be part of it. Baseball and football. I think Oklahoma has the clear edge in two of those three categories. Football, I don't think it's the presentation some USC people are putting out there that like he has no interest in OU football, but he loves OU baseball. Like it's not that. So like I don't know why that agenda keeps being pushed, or I do know why, but whatever. I like where they are with Taylor Tatum. I still very much like where they are with David Stone. I said it last week, and I continue to feel this way. The longer this goes with Williams-Nwaneri, the better it is for Oklahoma. The farther you get away from that Georgia visit and all that momentum and everything that got thrown at him, the better I think it is. Now, I know, again, there's a lot being stated, like, you know, the relationship he has with one of Georgia's coaching staff that, like I said, is a fellow Nigerian. There's a lot of correlation or a lot of connection there. I get it. At the same time, Oklahoma's the staff he has the longest and best relationship with. Like that it can't be argued. It can't be refuted. It 100% is there. I from everything I've gathered, and I've talked a little bit with some of you guys about this, it sounds like Oklahoma has put together as good an NIL package as he has in front of him. So, like, this isn't going to be David Hicks where Oklahoma does everything right and it doesn't matter because, you know, A&M just drops the bag. Like, that's not what I see happening here. Georgia just doesn't play like that because Georgia doesn't have to. They can recruit against anybody just because they're Georgia and are back-to-back national champions right now. So I think that's still in a good situation. I like where OU's with Michael Boganowski. You know, I could sit here and go down the list, but I like where they are. But Bob's exactly right. At some point, the dominoes need to start falling.
Yeah, it's you know, especially I think we got a little bit of a nervous fan base right now. They need some good news.
They're getting commitments, but it's from the complimentary pieces,
right?
Not the ones that are gonna
make you a top 10 borderline.
They're gonna resonate with national recruits or even a national commitment. It's just like, okay, why, you know, nothing against Wyatt Gilmore. He's a solid piece, but that's not going to get people fired up. You need those names that even the casual fan recognizes.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I know that everybody's getting used to kind of the new ranking scale, but you look at Oklahoma's class, and I know everybody's used to like the rival scale, the 5.9, the 5.8. Well, really what you're looking for within the on-3 stuff is you want players ranked above that 90-point threshold. That's the 4 stars, the 5 stars. That's what you're looking for. And right now in this class, Oklahoma's got 4 of them. And Jeremiah Newcomb, Jaden Hardy, Zion Kearney, who's a 94, way kind of up the list. And then the most recent one is the Ivan Carrion kid from Odessa, the big wide receiver, who I've got a tape breakdown up on the front page. I like him a lot. Like, I think there's I compared him to Johnny Wilson, who we all saw, you know, kind of torch OU last year in the Cheez-It Bowl. So they're putting together good pieces, but you're right. They're not the names that OU fans have been watching for 2 years and waiting to have a verdict from. But what is interesting is, like, you look at a guy like Taylor Tatum. 2 months ago, we didn't think Oklahoma was that serious a contender, and now OU fans are like, what's Taylor Tatum waiting on? Like, it's just crazy how quickly that stuff shifts. but I do think Oklahoma is in a good situation. I know people. One of the interesting ones. I would be interested to hear what you guys thought about it when some of the players, Grayson Halton, PJ Adebawore, start tweeting at Williams and Airy. I got a lot of people that are like, "Oh, it's desperation time." I'm like, no, they're just firing every shot they've got. Like, if you, because we know Williams and PJ have a relationship. We know that Williams spent time with Grayson Halton on his official visit, and Grayson's been very active with that freshman class, kind of getting to know those guys. So I don't think that's I don't know why people instantly read that has to be desperation. People forget that helped close Colton Vasek last year. Now, they didn't hold on to him. I get it. People just connect that as a negative, but it was part of him committing early. Like, that was part of the lead up to that decision.
So we know Mitchell is announcing Saturday. It's still 2025, and you still feel pretty good.
Yeah, for those that are listening, you will have already probably read Woke, but I am literally working on it as we speak. I'm sure Bob is going to have something basketball related where I can focus on Woke and getting that up. But no, it's going to have some notes on there, and I really like where they're at. I think Miami, and I said it last week. We talked about John Ruiz and Miami kind of making a run here. I think that settled down a little bit. I think that's kind of something OU has weathered. I wonder if it was just kind of the newness of it, and Miami kind of making that late run, and he had a visit and all those things. But I think it would surprise most everybody if it's not Oklahoma. Now, again, I hate that I always have to say this. It's recruiting. I'm not counting anything until it's done, and especially in a situation like this where Devon Mitchell was at Allen and then he transferred randomly to Los Alamitos, but he's still serious about Oklahoma. Like, there's a lot of things in play here. But I still think on Saturday when he makes his choice, I expect that to be Oklahoma.
Let's go receiver. Yeah, added another. And yet I think we both feel like they're in line, maybe get a 5th or 6th. How big could this group get for Emmett Jones?
I think you have to keep a really close eye on Zion Raggins, the wide receiver from Jones County in Georgia. For those that don't know, and they're going to look at his measurables and see, oh, he's 5'10", 150. Okay, yeah, the guy runs 10.3. Like, story over. Like, I mean, he is a field-stretching, just dynamic, dangerous wide receiver. And my impression is that Oklahoma still would take him and still wants him, and they are trying to rebuild that receiver room. Like, Emmett Jones doesn't have any illusions. He knows, guys, it's crazy that in a few years it's gone here, but that might be the weakest position on the roster right now. Like, they have to fix that. Mm-hmm. And I think they are doing all they can, and they know this is the kind of guy that can do it. And if it's 6, the only way I see it being 6 is if it's Terry Bussey. And again, going to have something on Woke on him. For those that haven't read it, go read it now. But Oklahoma is not going away in that fight. That's become a lot more interesting than I ever would have expected it to be maybe a month ago. That they are hanging around and fighting the fight. I don't know if it's going to be enough to beat Texas A&M. There is some let's call it we'll come up with a term here on the unofficial 40, a Hicksian element here that cannot be overlooked. But I know he likes Emmett Jones in Oklahoma a lot. Like, feels like if there's anybody that could surprise people with him, I think it might be Oklahoma.
Feels like the fan base has been scarred by David Hicks for the entire last year. Like, even these guys we're talking about, like even David Stone, everybody's like, he's just gonna
Hicks us.
Well, I think that there's a lot of that out there.
Like, I think that they've just been scarred for life with that.
Rightfully so.
I remember that day when that decision went down, getting messages from, I mean, I'm sure you guys are the same. Like, there are certain fans that just message me on Twitter, like, mm-hmm. and some of them I converse with, some of them I don't, but like, they're like, Stone's going to do this to us next year, isn't he? I'm like, good Lord, it's a year away. Like there's no comp here. But
can I say this, Josh?
That's as shocked as I've been.
Can I say this, Josh?
At an announcement. Yeah.
I don't think it's just the fans. I think the coaches are a little worried. Like, it's us, right? Like,
please.
I always kind of get that impression. Like, we're still good, right?
I mean, they're human too. Like I mean, because again, with Hicks, we all know it. Oklahoma did everything right. They did everything you could have done to land that player. And they did it basically 1.5, 2 times. Because they even during the season, it was like, oh, they're kind of coming back in this thing. And then, it just ended up being more impressive down the line. So, I mean, there was nothing you could do to win that fight. Like they were playing with a hand tied behind their back, or not even that. I mean, not like Oklahoma was, again, I don't want to feed that narrative that Oklahoma's NIL is weak or anything, but there's, like A&M made David Hicks a huge priority. He's a local kid from Katy ISD where where A&M is really dominated in recruiting. They want to keep that pipeline going. They want to keep Katy just funneling guys to A&M. And if you've got to do that by whatever means necessary, then whatever means necessary. And it's legal. Like, I'm not bagging on A&M like that. That's the game. They played it. That's fine.
All right. Yeah, I mean, one thing that's kind of interesting, you're talking about NIL deals and stuff like that. Like, there's so much stuff floating around on that, and I've always said this. I don't think NIL is always a mainstream talk. It's not a mainstream discussion point. But I would say this right now, like, OU's really in flux about, I think, what the future holds. Even though the law's been passed, now the IRS and all that. The NCAA is trying to get a hold of it. It's funny because like Texas A&M is like kind of daring them, while Texas is like Chris Del Conte sent out that letter saying, "Hey, check with your accountant before you make a donation to see if what he says about the write-off status." But I think Oklahoma's probably taken it a little bit more seriously. Like, let's take a wait and see approach. And I know they had some announcement that they were going to make recently, and then they pushed back on that. And I know fans were upset, like they thought that there was this rumor that there's going to be this big announcement, and then it never happened. But I think that's all because of waiting to find out how this all shakes out. So I thought I would just say something about that since you brought up it.
Yeah, I mean, and guys, I think that's why Oklahoma's been such a consistent program, because that's how they've operated under Joe forever. Like, they just, while you've seen these wild fluctuations in other places because they jump on everything and move in these directions, Oklahoma just kind of like, well, let's just wait until the end and see what comes out.
And for now, like you said, they're still putting together deals for people. The collectives are still there. They haven't folded. They both still represent plenty of players, but I just think that we're going to see a lot of changes over the next year about how all this operates and who operates what and who works with who and all of that stuff. And it's really in flux right now.
And before people start, yelling at the top of their lungs that OU's not doing anything in that realm right now, they did just finish top 5 with a top 5 class coming off of a 6 and 7 season. You don't do that without playing at least a little bit of the game.
And
it's because those kids love OU, Eddie.
Right.
Just because those kids love OU.
Right.
And whenever you hear On3 talk nationally about the collectives, they speak highly of OU. They're in like the top 10, the top 20 is like they are competitive.
Yeah, it's. I mean, just look at like Shannon Terry's Twitter right now. Like, just the kind of not fighting, but just the disagreements that people are having about where NIL is, how much money is involved, who's really making this, who's making that. It's got to have more transparency, I think, for it to move forward a little bit. I mean, right now it just seems like people refer to it as a Wild West, but it lends itself to being tagged that because you just don't hear about any like. These people have NIL deals. It's name, image, likeness. It's using their name, their image, and their likeness to promote businesses. I don't see any businesses really getting promoted except for deals that are getting done by the biggest athletes.
Sure.
I mean, at least 2 years ago, they had the Schwab dog, Caleb Williams stuff all over the place.
Right.
And then they went to like Jalen Redmond and stuff. Like,
right.
You don't see that stuff anymore.
You do, but it's in small doses.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to say it. And I don't know, outside of the Livy Dunns of the world that are actually like fronts for Viore and everything like that.
Front's the right word, but ambassadors.
Ambassador. I mean, she's kind of the face of it right now, is she not?
Yeah.
Like, is that not? But I'd like to say the front. But it is like, for them, it's incredible. I mean, what was the report out there this over the weekend? She had made $500,000 for one post.
Yeah, one post.
It's insane. I mean, the amounts of money that.
And Angel Reese, too.
I was going to say, the girl from LSU, the basketball player, she's made a ton of money.
And they're
I would imagine Jordy Ball made a ton of money.
Well, and it's people that are represented by people who know what they're doing.
Sure.
Like marketing.
But those are some of
That's
the
what
biggest
name, image,
names
likeness
out there.
was supposed to be, though. And the people that are, build up their brand and make a name for themselves. And I mean, I loved what Michael Turk did with his Twitter or his YouTube account. I mean, that was fantastic.
Did you guys see this? Literally was just tweeted by On3 that Quinn Ewers is having an evening with Quinn Ewers, like a meet and greet event.
Mm-hmm.
VIP tickets cost $2,312.
He'll sell a ton of those.
That's very dangerous, man. I mean, for him, I don't know. If I was his advisor, I'd be like, let's not, you need to be a better quarterback before we start. Like, that's getting him in Spencer Rattler territory with the fan base. That's a lot of pressure.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of pressure that already comes. He would probably say there's a lot of pressure that comes with what he's doing anyways.
But he's been doing this stuff. He's got good people. He had the kombucha deal coming out.
That's why he went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's why he left school.
Because he had to get out of NIL
or a semester
Texas
earlier,
wouldn't
or a full
let him
year
make
earlier.
NIL money. Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in the world I'd pay $2,000 to meet.
No.
Maybe
Yeah,
Ariana Grande.
There's a bunch of
A way to bring it back.
Oh my God.
there's a bunch of Texas fans that will be paying that, though, I would imagine. Just like there'd be a bunch of people that would pay that amount to go meet Jackson Arnold. I think that there would be.
Yeah.
Ian Boyd, he'd probably pay $2,000.
For Jackson Arnold?
Fair.
Or
Meet Jackson
Quinn
Arnold.
Ewers? I'm confused.
Critique Jackson's game about why he's not good enough.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
yes.
I mean, but you know what? Hey, God bless him. He's trying something out in the open. Like, at least somebody's doing something like that out in the open.
Proceeds will benefit merging vets and players. So I don't know how much money he actually takes away from that. But it's cool. It's a cool
Well, let's
idea.
face it. Like with the stuff we did with Baker, he's supporting a charity. He's not making money
Meals
out
on
of that
Wheels.
stuff. Yeah.
No doubt.
There's a lot of that stuff is not about putting money in your pocket,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be.
I'm more interested. I'm selfishly involved here. What are people willing to pay us to come speak? I mean, like, what are we thinking? Like $23? Like,
I haven't yet
If we
charged.
could get $23, that'd be a major
yes.
win.
I would say
do it.
this, Josh. I have not charged anyone to come to the office to check it out, but I can't speak for Eddie. He might be doing a side hustle on his own. I don't know.
No, I mean,
Eddie has to like go into the podcast room and he puts the cans on just so like they can take a picture of like pretend they caught him recording.
I wish. That'd be fun. It'd be better for me, probably.
I
I wouldn't
think
be so close to jumping off the ledge.
Eddie is. He knows. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but like, I'm afraid that Eddie is. He's rolling with high rollers that I think most people could only dream of running with. His crowd is just getting ridiculous, I think.
Was he invited to the white party? Eddie, can you confirm or deny that?
No, I was not invited to. I wasn't invited to what's his name's white party. What?
Okay.
What is it? The
Michael
RZA?
Rubin?
Michael Rubin. Yeah, I wasn't
Rubin.
invited
Sterling
to Michael
Shepard was
Rubin's
there.
July 4th party.
Yeah.
I was invited to a white party over the weekend, but
Yeah, I don't. It's about time to end the pod, I believe.
there's a reason I want to go to Mexico. You know.
I mean, I really think that you're pretty close to just having all access to a private jet at some point.
I think I'm already there. It's just about having worthwhile means to use that access.
Exactly. You can't waste that.
The plane doesn't fill itself up. If I could afford
you gotta
the
pay for the
gas,
fuel?
yeah, I think that's
expensive.
probably the biggest thing.
It's in five figures to get gas up a private jet.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
we're not looking to do that anytime soon.
All right.
I've only
Anything?
done that once. Crazy.
Anything else anybody wanted to hit on before we get out of here? George looks like he has an answer.
Just quickly, did you guys see the 4 players that they're sending to Big 12 Media Day?
Yeah. I was actually going to bring that up, and I was looking at everybody's players. It is surprising how many quarterbacks are making the trip for overall for all the teams.
Well, I guess that's just because they typically become.
Well, you hope
The
your
lead
quarterback
back is
is
the-
the face, the leader.
The only one surprising for Oklahoma is maybe Jonah Loalu.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it says something.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously says something. They have some trust there. They believe that. I'll be interested to see how big he is. I mean, I haven't seen him up close since spring because he's trying to get to 290.
Yeah,
I think he was 250 in spring.
Yeah,
I think
he
it
wasn't
was
even close.
wasn't it Bates that we talked to? I mean, this was back in April now or March that was talking about how great he's looked.
Talking him up, yeah, big time.
So, and obviously he's made the move inside. So you wonder if he can be a guy that starts and really contributes. The other three were Dylan Gabriel, Drake
Stutzman.
Stoops, and Danny Stutzman.
Yeah.
So, which none of those surprised me.
Stutzman will get the ringer. He'll go through the ringer again about being serious about football.
Who was
Oh
it
my
last year
God.
for them that went?
Mims, Downs, who else?
Eric Gray.
Yeah.
Was Gray not down there?
No.
I thought
Gray
we-
was.
Gabriel, Mims,
Oh, yeah, because there was only
Downs,
two.
I remember Gabriel. being
Deshaun.
Deshaun White.
Deshaun White.
Oh no, it was Woody Washington.
and
wasn't
Woody.
What? It was Woody.
Was it
I think
Woody?
I looked
I,
it
don't,
up-
I
looked
really
it up-
don't remember.
I looked it up like 2 months ago.
It was a weird
I think it was
group,
Woody.
but like Ethan Downs is a sophomore. Okay.
Hey, congrats to Ethan Downs on his
Yes, indeed.
his
Yeah, the
big day.
nuptials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
And I saw that Walter Rouse got engaged over
Yeah, I saw
the
that
4th
too.
of July weekend.
On the beach.
These boys'
Thunderbird?
heads are in the wrong places.
Was that Lake Thunderbird? I couldn't tell. He better been out there working. No, it is cool. Good for them.
And Ethan didn't have to pay for the flowers, which is nice. Well, nice for her.
As
dad.
Bob can attest, that's a painful.
Yeah, that is.
There ain't nothing that comes cheap in that time.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. And we will be back again. Let's see. We'll figure it out with the Big 12 schedule. Bob's like, oh, we're going to play. Yeah,
Yes, I am.
We'll figure it out one way or the other. And if we have to, we'll just do a pod from down there. So, well, yeah, maybe. We'll figure it out. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week at some point, right in the middle of Big 12 Media Days for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.